Yeah, got 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Welcome to it. We are inside the Heartbeat Sunrise with Celine. It's our fourth and final hour, but you know we always bring the gems for you. And I'm bringing back a gem who was in studio with us last year, Johanse IODK of IODK Consultancy. He's a behavior change specialist, and Mr. IODK believes that all individuals have the power to achieve their full potential, but may not always have the tools. One path to help tap into this power is through the understanding of human behavior. As a result, Mr. IODK pursued his education in psychology in Baltimore, Maryland, USA, then gained qualifications and experience with the Maryland Board of Counselors and Therapists, and works within the Baltimore healthcare system. Of course, he had to come back home to Trinidad and Tobago. Coming back home in 2011, and has continued his knowledge and growth in the field of behavior change by pursuing a master's in forensic counseling at Caribbean Nazarene College. And he's worked with private and public and non-profit sectors with clients of various ages in the areas of youth education, addictions counseling, the prison and police services, trauma victims of crime, family services, stress-related issues, grief and loss, mental toughness for athletes. Listen to me, the list goes on. Welcome to Heartbeat Radio 104.1 FM, Mr. Johanse IODK. Thank you for coming back and gracing us with your presence again.
Yes, Celine, thank you very much for having me.
And as we have been sharing with our listeners since the beginning of May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. But every day we should be aware of our mental health because we are navigating some seriously challenging times, both inside of ourselves because we're wondering, what is the next step to take in our lives? Which direction do I go in? A lot of people are giving up, as we have seen with the statistics, and even on the regional, the country level, the global level, we are seeing so much happening to people, and we're wondering, Four Non Blondes has this song, What's Going On? And sometimes you feel like you could give up, and what we do right here on Heartbeat is to make sure that people don't do that. Because there's always opportunity. Once you're breathing, seeing, all of these things, once you have that breath of life, you are definitely granted another opportunity.
Once you're alive, you have a chance.
That's right. And so with everything that's going around, you have to be planted. You have to be grounded. And this is what we're talking about this morning in terms of the state of our mental health.
Yes.
Sometimes we feel that we're okay. We put on that poker face and we say, yeah, I good, I real good.
that's a cliche answer. How you good?
I good. Yeah. Or because sometimes people start to actually express themselves and you get shut up because it's like, oh, well, truncate that now.
Yeah. Well, that's the irony, and that's why sometimes people feel alone.
Yeah.
Because you ask someone, how are you? And they express the truth, which is, let's say I'm sad.
Yeah.
And I'm sad because, and then you realize you don't even want to hear you.
Yeah, you see it in the body language too.
So now, if that happens enough time, of course you'll feel rejected.
Yeah.
Then you'll keep it inside. I mean, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I could understand if you're in an environment where people say they care about you or about your well-being, but then when you start to share, then they don't want to listen. Then, of course, you feel isolated. And what usually happens when you feel like you don't have a space to express yourself or you don't feel like you have a solution to the issue, then your mental health starts degrading.
Yeah, boy.
Then you start having, and we spoke about it last time, we start having suicidal ideations.
Right.
Not that you're suicidal yet.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have nobody to talk to, no solution, so I just want to disappear. I wish I wasn't even born.
Yeah.
Why am I here? I wish I could go and sleep for a whole year. You start having thoughts like that. And this is everybody, right? I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I have experienced it myself, and 100% of my clients, also people in my personal life, they express at one time I felt this way.
Yeah.
Right? And again, I'm differentiating between suicidal ideations and suicidal, because suicidal is when you really reach where you're starting to think about how you're going to end your life and things like that. So we didn't reach that there yet. We're just talking about that moment where I just don't know what to do and I wish I wasn't born. And understanding the degrees of it. Because when we ask if you're healthy, first let's go with physical health.
Right.
I don't know if I know anybody who 100% physically healthy, you know.
Correct.
Right? Even if you would be considered healthy, even if you're 99% physically healthy.
Yeah.
So let's switch it to mental health. I don't know. I wonder if I'm not even 100% mentally healthy all the time, you know. And let me explain that, because when you think about somebody not being mentally healthy, sometimes immediately you think you're mentally ill. You're mad. Correct. Or you're crazy, or you have a psychotic condition.
Yeah.
Versus, and let me give you a simplified definition of mental health.
Right.
The quality of your thoughts, feelings, and actions in relation to your environment. So let me say that again. Mental health is the quality of your thoughts, feelings, and actions in relation to your environment. What do you think about that?
I very much agree with that, because this is why a lot of people in our society, because it's not something that we are accustomed to. Parents will say to children, I mean, thank God we're in a space now where people are actually taking on this issue, this conversation, right? But there are still little bits and pieces of it where people are still from the olden days of saying, you mad, or you something wrong with you, or something like, and they just dismiss it. You just dismiss it, and it's like these are real issues going on here, and some people actually deny it within themselves, because from the time you mention the word mental, you think somebody's telling you that you're mad,
right?
And you're not.
Exactly.
It doesn't necessarily have to be so, but in going through the proper processes, you will find it's either you may have to manage your mental health as it relates to how you operate in your environment. Or you may find out that you do have a mental illness, but there are also ways in which you can manage that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't believe in mad or crazy. There's no one who's mad or crazy. Mad and crazy is the words we use when we don't know how to define or we don't understand why somebody doing something.
Right.
So when you see someone, why they doing that, boy, and you can't fathom the reason, so you call them mad.
Yeah.
But what I've learned, and this is some research I did years ago, for about a 6-month period, I studied vagrants. And especially the one that people said were mad and crazy. And what I realized is there was always a pattern. So when there's a pattern, it's not necessarily that something wrong. It's just that we don't know why the person doing it. And I'm adding that even for ourselves, because sometimes we may do things that we may call ourselves crazy. But one, it may be not the norm based on our society, based on where we live, based on the people around us, but it may be actually who you really, really are in that moment. So we judge ourselves harshly, and then we put pressure on ourselves. And then, so we go in with the quality of your thoughts, feelings, and actions in relation to your environment. Environment, of course, is not only the physical, right? It is even the people around us.
Yeah.
So if you being yourself, and you think something wrong with being yourself based on the environment, then at that moment you're not mentally healthy. You know? You hear how deep we get in there.
Yeah.
And so then that happens to most of us because I people please at times, and I know I don't know anybody who didn't people please once or twice or 10 or 100 times in their life.
I think we all have experienced that. We all do it and probably still do, to some extent.
So then I guess what I'm saying, even people pleasing is part of being mentally ill, you know, because you choosing not to be yourself based on the environment.
Yeah.
And so for each person to test themselves, to analyze themselves, how are you relating to your environment? So you're in traffic, that's your environment. How you deal with traffic could depend if you're mentally healthy or not. You know.
Why you had to use that example?
because this is everyday life.
Oh gosh.
It's to show you sometimes a lot of little things we think is the norm and we get accustomed to it. Now, getting accustomed to something doesn't mean it's good for us. We could find comfort in discomfort. That's the curse and the gift of being human. Right? Because we have to learn to adapt, and we adapt to things to survive. Now, here that word I use, survive. It's only so long we could stay in survival.
That's right. Correct.
Tell me your thoughts so far.
With regards to that, we're talking about we're finding ways to survive and adapting to that. And I'm just going through my mind and observing my own behavior, observing people's behaviors that I've seen as well. And I'm like, this is happening every day. But my thoughts are, with regards to what we were just talking about, is the time, because of how fast-paced life is right now. Everything is just, I have to get this done, I have to get this done. Where do you find the time to be so intentional or so mindful of these things? Because we sometimes are not even aware that we are people pleasing. If
Very
you're saying
true.
that sometimes you're in an interaction and you find yourself saying, okay, my mind is probably distracted, but I am here with this person, so I have to give them my attention.
Right.
So you're giving them something that's somewhat diverted, but you know what? This is what he's saying. So let me just go with the flow
Go
right
along
now.
with it.
That's people pleasing. And it's not something that you want to do because, yes, you're expressing yourself. And some people might even want to argue that, well, that's part of who I am. I people please. And not recognize that it is something to do with the state of your mental health.
Correct. You said before, we live in a fast-paced world, and where would we get the time? Who decided the world is fast-paced? You understand where I'm coming
Yes.
from? It's something outside of you.
Yes.
Whether it is society, whether it is a mentality, whether it is a university, whether it is your family.
Yeah.
Most times, it's someone outside of you decided that it's fast-paced. So even adapting to that is mentally unhealthy.
Listen to me. That, what you just said there, because sometimes I shut off social media all the time because it's like, this is too much.
All right.
It's too much for me to look at, but yet we need it because of how we're operating now. Somebody asked that question on Facebook recently. What is something that you're slowly becoming less interested in? And I was like, sadly, social media. But ironically, I have to use it for what I do, you know, but then you manage how you use it and what you also intake from it as well. Because sometimes I find some of the information out there is sometimes it's too positive. And I'm like, oh God, it's too much. Hush. Leave me alone. Let me just be in my moments. And I found that, not these days, but lately I found that sometimes I'm a little bit here and there because the same thing you were just saying. Who decided that it has to be fast-paced? I decided to slow down, right? But I'm like, I decided to slow down, but yet I'm seeing all of these other things happening at a faster pace than mine. So I'm not stuck, but sometimes I'm torn between I'm going at my pace and I'm just going to shut out the world, but take from it what I can or will. And then there's a part of me that sometimes gets into, oh gosh, I have to keep up. So that's where sometimes the headaches and the feelings of, oh God, what is going on? And the anxiety steps in from time to time, you know?
And you see all that you say there, that way saying is a lot of energy. You just expel there, you know?
Yeah.
And even listening to that, you could tell, even in your mind, and I'm going to say something, and it might sound a little weird, even you going through that is mentally unhealthy, you know?
Of course it is. I agree.
Right? And sometimes when I have this discussion with a colleague of mine, he say that, Johan, say you're always trying to live in this utopian world, you know? But and this is a recent development for me, I believe that we could have the perfect life, you know. I grew up learning that, you know, we can't achieve perfection, and perfection is something out of my reach, out of our reach. But perfect is a subjective thing, not an objective thing.
Right.
It's a subjective thing. So if I think perfect for me is going to the beach on Mondays,
Gotcha.
I could live that life.
Gotcha.
Perfect for someone else maybe going to work every Monday. But if you believe you can achieve that perfection and you work towards it intentionally and direct your behavior, then you can get it. And
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
that perfect life you envision is mentally healthy for you. Now, I'm not saying you could get it tomorrow, you know.
Right.
Because many of us live a life where we people please, we did a lot of things. So we create this life that we have now that may not be in alignment with us. So of
Yeah.
course it takes time to get out of it. But if you aim for that life, so let's go with the small things that could be mentally unhealthy. We talk about traffic. Listen, if 40% of Trinidad decide we're not working like this, you don't think something will change?
Yeah.
If 40% of people think, you know what, my perfect life is, I want to work from home.
From home, yeah.
Now, people say sometimes people want to be lazy, but I know plenty people who really love their work, who really want to do their work, sometimes even more productive
Yeah.
from home.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of lazy. This is how I want to envision. I envision I working hard, but I at home in my pajamas. That is your perfect world.
Yeah.
Aim for that. So we talk about traffic. You could think about school. This is the school I want to attend, or I want my children to attend.
Yeah.
Aim for that. This is the education that I want to achieve, or for my children to achieve. Aim for that. Even something simple as you look in the mirror. This is the body that I know I want. Aim for it. Right? Sometimes we look and we say, nah, boy. And we come up with all these limitations. So I tying that into being mentally healthy because it's really a paradigm shift. So going back to the quality of your thoughts, feelings, and behavior in relation to your environment. So if you're in an environment of plenty unhealthy foods, right? And you can't resist it, that means that's mentally unhealthy there, you know.
Yes.
Because you're doing something that you know is unhealthy for you. Right? And now highlighting these things because sometimes you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So imagine you wake up in the house you don't want to be in, because that's not your perfect house. Right? And again, I'm not saying that's something you can get tomorrow, but you could work towards it. Because if your house building is the perfect house, even though it hasn't been built yet, it gives you joy every day to see a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So you wake up in the house you don't want to be with. You wake up in the relationship you don't want to be. You're going to a job you don't want to go to. You end up in traffic because of it. That's 4 things already. And that always happening before 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Right? So that means you're already having a mentally unhealthy day. And you're probably doing that 5 times a week. So we now reach 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
You reach any job you don't want to be. Somebody get vexed in the job you don't want to be in. Of course, it'll be extra stressful because you don't want to be there. Yeah, you're forced, quote unquote, to stay in the job for the entire day. Now you have to go back in traffic, go back home to the house you don't want to be, go back to the relationship you don't want. I tired already saying that. So you understand what I'm saying. Tell me your thoughts so far.
What I was thinking there is it's a lot. Oh God, that sounds like a lot, but it's also representative of the way that a lot of people think, and they may not even be aware of it because it's so run of the mill. It's just so routine to do. And before we started on air, we were talking about sometimes what we do for self-care and what we do for self-care could become so routine. So sometimes you have to change those things as well. But what was actually going through my mind there in what you were just saying is, what about if, you went through all of that before 9 o'clock? Maybe not the part with the job that you don't like. Maybe you do like your job. How does that, a mixture of things that you like and don't like? Because what you highlighted there were all the things that you probably don't like that could probably lead to unhealthy mental state.
Right.
But if it's a mixture,
then think about it as a bank. Inside of us, we have an emotional bank, and you could also compare it to your physical bank. Your physical bank account is checked often, right?
Right.
You want to make sure that more deposits going in than withdrawals, so you're always checking it. But with our emotional bank, we don't really check in to see how much withdrawals versus deposits. Now you may ask, what is a deposit versus a withdrawal to emotional bank? Going to a job you like is a deposit.
Right.
Going to a job you don't like is a withdrawal. Let's say getting a compliment. That is a deposit. Accomplishing a goal. Exercising. I mean, what is a deposit could be also subjective for you because you know the things you like. Saying a prayer, meditating, lying around the people that you like, getting the hairstyle you want, deposits. But the opposite of those things are withdrawals. So it's good in each moment. Ask yourself, is this a deposit or withdrawal? So I wake up in the morning, I notice my walls white, but I prefer them yellow. That is a withdrawal. Now that's something you could work towards.
Right.
You mightn't paint it immediately, but you could, let's say even if you have to save for the paint, and you save for the brush, and you save on each little piece. So then by, let's say after a 6-month period, when you wake up, at least the first thing you see is the yellow walls you like. That's a deposit.
Right.
And then when you turn now, you have to look at the bathroom. If you understand what I'm saying, every little thing. So even those who are listening, analyze in your life everything, even the minute, seemingly trivial things. is this a withdrawal? Is it a deposit? Because if you have too many withdrawals, in your life, then of course your account will go to overdraft.
Yep.
And that is when the problems really start.
So that's when the suicidal ideations will start stepping in around that time. So we have identified the areas where and the need to really, really slow down mentally and pay attention to how we are treating with all of the events in our lives,
Yes.
even the small ones, and more importantly, the small ones, because the bigger events in our lives, we prepare for it.
Yes.
But these little ones, they literally just happen, and we don't know that we are reacting to it, right? And the ways in which we can manage and maintain that, because we have to wrap up, unfortunately, but the ways in which we can manage and maintain that, you did actually touch on some of those along the conversation as well, because we were talking about finding what is perfect for you.
Yes.
Making sure and taking note of what is perfect for you. And that could resemble your vision boarding. That could resemble having conversations with your therapist. That could resemble you just sitting down and meditating, giving yourself that quiet time to really empty yourself of everything that's going on inside of you, not so much around you, but inside of you, and giving your thoughts a chance to be aired.
Yes. And I didn't analyze, is this a withdrawal or deposit for me?
Yeah.
So you would know when your bank account low, because we know. One telling sign of whether your bank account low, your emotional bank account is low, is when you start losing control. So in this moment, I'm angry. If you can't manage your anger, or you're having problems managing your anger, you know your bank low. You're having problems managing your sadness, because all of these emotions normal, right? We feel sad, we feel happy,
Correct.
all these things all the time. So nothing wrong with feeling it. But in the moment, if you can't manage it, or you have a difficulty managing it, now even joy, sometimes you could be too happy.
Oh yeah, I know about that.
You're so happy, you spend all your money. If you understand what I say.
Sometimes I notice, I said, when you see I am extra happy, that's when I check myself as well. Something is going on. Because I am generally a joyful person, but I'm like, if I'm over the top with it, I was like, what's really going on with you? Something in your subconscious that you're trying to evade, but it's not, as I said, subconscious, right? So it's not like if I'm aware of it. So that is an indication for me to check what is happening in and around me that makes me feel so extra happy. Because there's something that I found, that things that I get overly excited about, that I'm achieving or whatever, if I get too excited about it, it's not going to happen. I know I have to change that process of thinking, because
Right.
and I'm just seeing it from experience. So I now have to change that trajectory in terms of that thought process, because hey, we definitely have to change that. But those are some of the things that we can employ in our daily lives, and it will help us to slow down. It will help us to be more self-aware, and that self-awareness brings that level of self-love that we talk about.
Self-awareness, right? Awareness is knowledge.
Yes.
And if knowledge is power, and you're aware of yourself, then you're able to have power or manage yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So one is being able to check in with that emotional bank. And then two, I've given everybody who listening some homework, right? Your homework is to write out what is your perfect life. Don't think about any limitations, don't think about anything. Write out what is your perfect life. And then strive towards that.
Yeah.
Strive towards that. And every day, once you're striving towards it, you'll be a little more emotionally and mentally healthy, because you're seeing it. It could be one brick at a time, 1 centimeter at a time.
Yeah.
But it's not to let your environment, and again, the definition for mental health is the quality of your thoughts, feelings, and actions in relation to your environment. So don't let your environment now change you or make you become into something. I know this is easier said than done, because this is not a walk in the park for me either. But I understand when you lose yourself to your environment, whether it is to the people around you, the physical environment, your work, your business, etc. When you lose yourself, that is when you become mentally unhealthy. That is when the depression could step in. That is when the anxiety could step in. And if you look at even some of the history of the other bipolar, schizophrenia, things like that, is because of the inability sometimes to manage your environment. Now, sometimes it may be a more traumatic environment for some people that may lead to that. But you didn't have the tools And sometimes it may not be your fault, it may be how you grow up, etc. But you didn't have the tools to be able to manage your environment in a healthy manner.
That's a lot to take in this morning, but a good lot.
Yes, yes.
It's very thought-provoking, and I really do hope that it has been very insightful, informative, and mind-settling in a sort of a way for our audience this morning, because we know that everybody has something that they're dealing with. I saw a friend post a live. She doesn't do lives at all. And she posted the live about her mom's experience at the hospital.
Right.
And it was so heartbreaking and stuff. And I said to her, I said, it's fine. Sharing is part of your healing.
Yes.
Because I know from my podcast that I have been through a healing process just from being as open as I could possibly be. And I encourage people to be honest with yourself. Be very open with yourself when you're doing the homework that Johanse just gave you in terms of writing out your perfect life. Be very honest with yourself, because we need to get there. We need to get to that point, and getting there is not a destination. It's a process. It's our state of being. Every day we're working on improving ourselves. Every day we're learning ourselves, for that matter. So I really do encourage each of us to get to that place of not saying, I'm good. I don't need to do that work you're talking about, or I'm not mad, or I don't need therapy, or I don't need this, I don't need that. And literally fooling ourselves, because at the end of the day, we need to take control of our lives.
Correct.
We need each other, because we could only know how we are behaving and impacting other people by the feedback we get from them. And that will help us to create the perfect life that we aspire toward. Johanse Ayodike, Behavior Change Specialist, thank you so much again for sparing the time with us, sharing with us in the way that you did, and forcing me to pull stuff out of myself too.
Right, well, that's part of the excitement.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Celine, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate even the opportunity for me, because this is helpful for me also, because I'm also speaking my truth, and then I could assist anyone along those lines.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes,
and we're going to get
to everyone listening.
Thank you. We're going to get back into some music now. I've got Lady Gaga, Hold My Hand. Enjoy.
Hold my hand.